You're listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe of Torch in Houston, Texas. This is the Parsha Review Podcast.
Good morning, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here this beautiful Friday morning in Houston, Texas. I want to begin by dedicating today's class to Hanan and Hindi Frostbaum. I don't know who they are, but my daughter called me this week and she says, I need to tell you something really special. She said, my daughter, she does hair services, wigs, etc., hair cutting, and one of the women who came to pick up or drop off a shaitel, they got into some conversation, and she mentioned that she listens to some podcast from a rabbi in Houston. So my daughter says, who? She says, Rabbi Wolbe. She says, which Rabbi Wolbe? She says, she pulls it up on her phone. She says, on my way walking here, I've been listening to his podcast for a very long time, particularly the Parsha podcast. So I was very honored by that. And to me, it's a great, I never ever know who's listening. I have no idea who's listening. And Baruch Hashem, we just finished 2025, and we had a remarkable incline in our listenership. In 2025, something to the scale of, I think, a 45% growth overall, which is obscene. And I'm there you go, high five. And Baruch Hashem. So I want to thank Hanan and Hindi for being such dedicated listeners, and I want to bless them and all of our listeners to have magnificent learnings through the Torah. That everything that we learn, everything that we are inspired by should influence us, should hopefully make an impact on each and every one of us. I say this to myself because, I don't teach messages for you. I love you all. It's great to see your beautiful faces, but I teach things that are meaningful to me so that I can learn and I can grow. And thank you for joining me on that journey. So it really is very, very special when I'm able to hear that people are listening and those of you who are listening out there, please reach out. I'd love to get your feedback, things you agree with, things you don't agree with, things you enjoy, things you don't enjoy. So I hope you enjoy the following idea on this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayechi. We know the famous part of this week's Parsha is Jacob is about to die. And what does he do before he dies? He doesn't gather his family and say, hey, guys, let's hold hands and let's sing Kumbaya. No, he gives blessings. And what type of blessings does he give? He gives each and every one a different, unique blessing, emphasizing the specialty, the uniqueness, the talents of each and every one. And I think that number one, is a very, very important thing to notice, pay attention, and to implement in our lives. And that is, every single child is different. Don't try to raise your children. This is the cookie cutter, stamp, and that's the way I want all of my children to look like. No, every child is unique. Every child is special. Every child has talents that are so incredible. Help them all. Help them all come to the surface. Help them all reach their potential. That's our job as parents. And I think that we sort of live in a society where people think about equality. Judaism does not believe in equality the way the world thinks of equality. The world thinks of equality as equal outcome. That's not true. In Judaism, we go by equal potential, not equal outcome. Equal potential, not equal outcome. Yes, everyone deserves to have opportunity. But the results, everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Everyone is special. And we don't want to take that away from our children, that they have to be like their friends. They have to be like the rest of their class. They have to be like the rest of their community. They have to be unique. They have to be special. Nobody should limit your child or our own trajectory. Nobody should limit it. We should do everything we can to bring out our uniqueness and shine in the world. Okay, so that's piece number one. I think it's very important when we talk about education. Education is not a one-size-fits-all. Education is not meant to be a simple journey of like, this is what we do. To look at each child uniquely. You have to look at each child with a special love, bringing out their potential. Connecting to this is an incredible insight that I learned this week about the blessings that Jacob gives to his grandchildren, Ephraim and Menashe. In chapter number 48, Memches, Pasuk Chaf, verse number 20, it says, Vayivorchem bayomahu, and Jacob blessed them on that day, Lemor, saying as follows, B'cho yivorech Yisrael, Lemor, by you shall Israel bless. That means that forever, when we bless our children, we bless them exactly the way Jacob blessed Ephraim and Menashe. What is that? May God make you like Ephraim and Menashe. And he put Ephraim before Menashe. That's what the verse says. Yisimcha Elokim Ephraim and Menashe, by Yosef is Ephraim lifnei Menashe. We can get into all the details of why he put Ephraim before Menashe, but the point that I'm trying to focus on now is B'cho Yivorach Yisrael. Specifically, when we bless our children, this is an age-old tradition that parents bless their children every Friday night. I had a young lady who said to me after she became religious, and we were just like recalling all of the stories and all of the experiences that she had on her journey. So I said, "What actually did it for you? Like, at what point did you say, that's what I want? I want to be Shomer Shabbos. I want to keep kosher. I want to have family purity in my marriage." When did that epiphany take place? And she said, "I once saw you bless your children Friday night at the meal, right before the meal." And she said, that's what I want. It's a very powerful thing for us to bless our children. When do we have in the world out there an opportunity to just bless our children? See, we just came off the heels of, we had Thanksgiving at the end of November. We had other legal holidays that were celebrated around the world where families get together and they have like their once a year get together of the whole family. We have that every single Shabbos. In Judaism, Hashem gives us the opportunity to have a Thanksgiving every single Shabbos where we get together with our family and we wine and we dine and we do all of the lovely, beautiful, delicious things that we want to do with our loved ones. What do we do at that time? We take a moment to bless our children. So why specifically in the name of Ephraim and Menashe, the two children of Joseph? So there are multiple reasons given. Number one is that they utilized their talents. They utilized their talents and they became the fullest they could possibly become, even more. They outdid their potential. Our sages tell us that Ephraim and Menashe, one learned with Joseph, their father, and one learned with Jacob, their grandfather, when he came down to Egypt. They were very, very scholarly, they were very wise, they were great, great Jewish examples. But our sages tell us another reason. It's because if you look in the history, there hasn't been a very good relationship between brothers. We see Cain and Abel, the first set of brothers, one killed the other. We see throughout history, Abraham had two children, Isaac and Ishmael. Didn't work so well. Isaac had two children, Jacob and Esav. Didn't either work so well. Jacob had multiple children, and we know what happened there, where they sold their brother to Egypt. And we see that there's constantly this conflict, because Jacob could have blessed them, saying, you should be like Abraham. You should be like Isaac. You should be like me. You should be like my son Joseph. You should be like Moses, like David. No, specifically, B'cho Yivorach Yisrael. The future of the Jewish people, they will bless their children to be like you, Ephraim and Menashe. Why? Because they had a special harmony that was unique. It was unique. Okay. I want to share with you another outstanding idea. Oh, so another thing, a third reason, is because the Ephraim and Menashe, where did they grow up? Where were they born? They were born, their passport said Egypt. They were born in Egypt. They grew up in Egypt. They lived in Egypt. They had the environment of Egypt. They had the culture of Egypt. They had everything surrounding them. Yet they stood out as servants of Hashem without any compromise. notwithstanding the entire environment that they had around them, they maintained their relationship with Hashem without any compromise. And you know what Jacob saw in his prophecy? Jacob saw in his prophecy that the Jewish people are going to spend a heck of a lot of time in exile. We're right now in exile, even though we love Texas and we love being here, but still we're in exile. We don't have a temple rebuilt in Jerusalem. We have wars that we have to deal with. We have to realize that we're in exile. So, what happens when we're in exile? We sometimes get caught up in the frame of mind of saying, you know what? If we didn't stand out that much like a sore thumb in the eyes of the nations of the world, then you know what would happen? They won't hate us because we'll be just like them. And we look throughout history. As we mentioned dozens of times. Right over here. 5 pages, small font of incident after incident where the Jewish people were persecuted. And you know, in each of those cases, the Jewish people had a different status. In one of them, they were at the hierarchy of wealth. Oh, the Jews are stealing all the money. They're in charge of all the banks. Did you ever hear that before? The Jews aren't controlling the world? Yeah. Right? And what happens when the Jewish people were poor? They're leeches on the culture. Whatever status the Jewish people had, so that resulted in Jews being enslaved, expulsions, massacres, book burnings, Jews burned alive, pogroms, expulsion, forced conversions, synagogue burnings. I'm talking about year after year after year. Public torture and burnings, mob attacks, Jews burned alive, stake burnings. I'm reading, this is just like mob attack, widespread pogroms, lynchings. You look at what's going on, and you'd think, if we're just one of them, they won't hate us. That never worked. Ever. It never worked in the history of the Jewish people. 3,300 years, the Jewish people, since we received the Torah, it hasn't changed. We're still dealing with the same things today. And it's beautiful to see in our generation where people say, you know what, they're coming after us. We're going to make a bigger Star of David on our necklace. We're not going to hide it. We're going to wear a bigger yarmulke. We're going to be more proclaiming and proud of our Judaism than ever before. We're not going to hide it. And that's the way we need to be. Because you know what Ephraim and Menashe did? Notwithstanding that they grew up in Egypt, they maintained a firmness to their beliefs in Hashem, in their Torah, in their observance, and not removing one iota. Jacob saw that the future of the Jewish people will be similar to that of Ephraim and Menashe. We will be surrounded by influences from the nations of the world. Jacob says, B'cho yivorach Yisrael. The Jewish people, wherever they're going to be, they will remember that Ephraim and Menashe survived Egypt. Ephraim and Menashe maintained their stature when they were in Egypt. Ephraim and Menashe were so elevated, notwithstanding the lowliness of their generation. Egypt was the most materialistic place on earth. It was the wealthiest country on earth. They had the greatest power on earth. They didn't give into it. Ephraim and Menashe were the example of what it meant to be God-fearing Jews, Hebrews at the time. But I want to share with you one more thing that I heard this week, and I think it's so magnificent. So we stand there every Friday night and bless our children. Yisimcha Elokim Ephraim and Menashe. Hashem should bless you, my dear children. Hashem should bless you to be like Ephraim and Menashe. But do you know how Ephraim and Menashe became an Ephraim and Menashe? How did they become an Ephraim and Menashe? Because they had a father who was Joseph. They had a father who was Joseph. That's how you get an Ephraim and Menashe. You get an Ephraim and Menashe when you have a father, Joseph. And what we're doing every Friday night is looking at our children, and we're turning to ourselves and saying, buddy, take accountability. You need to be a Joseph in order for them to be an Ephraim and Menashe. Not just pass the buck on and say, children, follow the laws of the Torah. You do the right thing. But me, I have an exemption. No, there's no such thing. If you become a Yosef, and Yosef was of the greatest, it says, Kol hagadol michaveru yitzur gadol imenu. The greater one is, the greater their challenge will be. The greater their temptation will be. Because you have more tools. You have more weapons. You can handle a bigger war with your Yetzer Hara. You can deal with more. Look who was seduced daily, it says, by the wife of Potiphar. The Torah mentions it one time, and he was thrown in prison for that. Every day he was such a good-looking guy. He's a successful guy. He had to be strong. He had to withstand challenge. He had to persevere, notwithstanding all the challenges he was facing. He was a Yosef. When you're a Yosef, you get an Ephraim and Menashe. And this is, I think, the most important message. Be a Yosef so that you can have an Ephraim and Menashe. When we bless our children, we're taking accountability to ourselves, saying, be a Yosef. Be like Yosef. He had every reason in the world to drop his faith. He had every reason in the world to say, you know what, this is just not for me. He was sold by his brothers. He became viceroy of Egypt. 22 years he's away from his father. He's like, I could just sell out and goodbye. What do I need this for? What do I need this for? He only became stronger in his faith. He became stronger when he was away from his father, when he was away from his brothers, when he was in Egypt and he didn't have a shul to go to. He didn't have a torch center to go to. He didn't have some place to go learn. What did he do? He had to grow from within. Find Hashem. Discover Hashem anew. And become the great Yosef HaTzadik. That when his brothers come, it's the most fascinating thing to see the midos of Yosef. His brothers come and he says, guys, don't be upset at yourselves. Don't get angry that you sold me to Egypt. That was Hashem's big plan. No, it's not you. What do you mean? What do you think we would do if something like that happened to us? Oh, we'd get all our revenge out. You're kidding? You sold me to Egypt? You want me to be nice to you? What does Yosef say? He says, guys, no. This is part of Hashem's plan. Hashem planted this. Do you understand what that takes? To see them right in front of your eyes and say, it wasn't you. It was Hashem who did that. My dear friends, we have to learn how to be a Yosef in order to have children like Ephraim and Menashe. They became the great leaders they were. They became the great examples of what it means to be a Jewish person because they had a father, Yosef. This is amazing. B'cho yivorach Yisrael. Forever. This is the way we bless our children. Be like Ephraim and Menashe. Because we're going to have to live up to being a Yosef. Our children cannot be Ephraim and Menashe if we're not a Yosef. We have to be upstanding. We have to be committed. We have to be dedicated. We have to excel in every area. in order for our children to be the Ephraim and Menashe that they can be. Be great. I think that's the most amazing blessing we get from Jacob to all of us here today. Be unique. Be you. Don't fall into the crowd and say, it's just we're all the same. It's fine as long as I'm... one of the things I despise the most is when you take your child to the doctor and they tell you what the average is for height and what the average is for weight. They tell you that it's fine. You're a little bit above average. You're a little below average. No. You're you. You're the only you there will ever be. There is no average. You're you. You're one of a kind. You're unique. You're special. Find your talents. Find your uniqueness. And this is what Jacob is doing in these blessings to all of his children. He's showing that each of you are different. Each of you, don't do the whole kumbaya, we're all the same, we're all equal. No, we're not equal. We're different. The Kohen is not the Levi is not the Israelite. The men are not the women are not the men. Everyone is unique. Everyone is special. We see that there's always a uniqueness that's trying to be brought out in our Torah for every single person to find their specialty. You be you. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to just be average. You could be so much greater than average. Why be average? Olympic gold medalists don't say I can just be average. I could be the best. That's what we're aiming for. My dear friends, have a magnificent Shabbos. Very, very good point. You're saying that we don't say this by Abraham, we don't say this by Isaac or Jacob, we don't say this by Joseph. We say this by Joseph's children. Yes, we are a product of how we were raised, and even if someone is raised in a unstable home, I know somebody who grew up with a very, very abusive home, extremely abusive. I know someone else who grew up in a home where the father and or mother were addicted to various different things. One was an alcoholic, other addicted to meds, whatever it may be, each one in their own situation. Some are physically abusive, sexually abusive, mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. And we want to turn over our lives to make it like it didn't exist. It did exist. Don't run away from it. Don't let your past experience limit you. I had a friend of mine who went through some abuse in his life. And he used it as an excuse to really stink at life. You know why I'm a failure? And he's pointing fingers to everybody. Pointing fingers at everybody. This person abused me. This one didn't encourage me. This one didn't teach me. This one didn't compliment me. Everyone, we can excuse everybody. We can point fingers at everybody. It's all their fault. Or we can just look in the mirror and say, you know what? Forget the forgive. I need to make something out of myself. It's my life. These challenges, I have a specific individual that I'm very close with. Grew up in a very abusive home. And notwithstanding that, he's married, has 2 beautiful daughters. And I always tell him, one day you will owe your parents, notwithstanding he hasn't spoken to his parents in over a decade. Wants nothing to do, he'll dance on their grave. Probably rightfully, considering the abuse. I said, still, you are the man you are today because of them. That it's difficult for him to hear it, but it's the reality. Because in order for you to sometimes bring out your strengths, to bring out your talents, your convictions, your commitments, is because you worked through all of the challenges that you faced. You didn't sign up for that. That's not what I wanted when I was born into this family. But that's the hand you were dealt. And that's the cards you need to play with. And make the absolute best of it. Don't excuse it and say, oh, this is all the reasons why I am not successful in life. And blame everybody else. And I think that this is not only applicable to raising children and for ourselves, but it's in every area of life. In every area of life, we need to look into ourselves, in our marriages, in our jobs, in our parenting. How am I going to succeed? Not, oh, the HR director doesn't like me and this, we can blame everybody. Notwithstanding all of those challenges, I want to succeed. So I'm not going to allow those excuses. And I can point fingers at everybody. But it's not going to help unless I look in the mirror and say, I want to get my life under control. I need to fix this. And all of those things that lead us to that point are contributors to it. To us getting a grip of our lives. And not to run away, not to give excuses, and not to say, oh, woe is to me, everyone have mercy, let me get a handout, and goodbye. That's giving up on life. We cannot give up on life. We cannot. Hashem wants us here. Hashem believes in us. Hashem knows that we can attain greatness. That's why He keeps on investing on us, in us every single day. Because Hashem believes we can do great things. Let's go do it. Yes. So if you want me to explain the estrangement culture in our country, America has an unbelievable gift of abundance. And that gets people to become selfish and self-centered and self-serving. And this becomes a very, very, very big problem. It becomes a very big problem because you will never, ever find in someone who is committed and dedicated to Torah life any kind of estrangement. Ever. I don't know of a single case like that. As soon as I move Torah out of my life, and I move Hashem out of my life, so now I'm standing my ground, and I'm going to take a position on this. That's not Torah. That's not Torah. The Torah teaches us how to be benevolent and kind and forgiving and loving and selfless. And you know what? To me, one of the most painful things, I have a very, very dear friend. He doesn't speak to two of his children. And this is tragic. It's tragic. And I've spoken to him about it. He says, no, they're losers. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to talk to them the rest of my life. I think it's tragic. Personally, I think it's tragic. Because these are children you brought to this world. We have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to do everything we can to bring the best product out of those children. One second. And then we have siblings who don't talk to each other. And then it's children who don't talk to parents, and parents who don't talk to children, siblings who don't, and relatives who don't. And to me, we're small people. My grandfather would say this. He says, "Kleine Menschelach." People are small, and they get too caught up in small things. We need to be big. We need to be great people. Everything we see in our Torah is about greatness. You know, the small people were. Look in the Torah, you'll see. Esav was a small guy. He's got a very, very small details about him. Yishmael was a small guy. Look at Bilam. He was a small guy. Balak was a small guy. Korach was a small guy. You see, the Torah shows us what's the difference between the contrast between greatness and emptiness. My grandfather once set on a mission to write biographies about great Torah scholars and great philosophers and great world leaders, and to contrast them. Aristotle was living a very promiscuous lifestyle and is a great philosopher. And his students found him like this with a woman. They're like, "You're the great Aristotle. What's wrong with you?" He says, "No, now I'm not Aristotle. Now I'm just me." That doesn't work in Judaism. The way you act in private is the way you act in public. It's who you are. I want to tell you something. I had an epiphany over this break that we had a few days. I was thinking about this a lot. Is that we need to be intentional Jews. We need to be intentional. Sometimes you ask them, "Why do you do it?" "No idea, I just did it." It's like this culture of like, "I don't know. I don't care." You ask kids today, like, "No, I don't care. I don't know." What do you mean you don't know? You see in the Talmud that we study every Friday, every single thing the sages said was backed up. It was intentional. I said this because I have this source. To be an intentional Jew. Meaning someone shouldn't ask a person, "Tell me, do you keep kosher?" "No, I don't keep kosher." "Why not?" I don't know." Why? Be intentional. Be intentional. Meaning, if it's important enough for me to do or not do, let me have a backing for it. Let me do it. Now, if a person says, "Look, I believe in it, but I'm not there yet," that's a very good answer. That's intentional too. But to just say, "I don't know," that's not intent. And I want to focus on this year. I want to drill it in that we should be intentional Jews.
How do you define intentional?
That means I'm doing it with a plan. Yes or no. For example, okay? I told my children when we arrived, we went on vacation, went for a few days. Before we got out of the car, I said to them, "What are we doing now for the next 3 days? We're going to be away out in hill country." It's great. It was such a great, rejuvenating vacation. I said, "We're essentially just wasting time. We're wasting time. We're not doing anything. I'm not teaching classes, right? I didn't even bring, and this was, again, intentional. I brought something to learn. I didn't bring all of my class prep that I normally would bring. Didn't bring it with me. It was intentional. Why? Because my job on vacation was to rejuvenate, was to refresh. And I told my children all went back to school today. I said, we're going now on this trip not to waste time. We're going to replenish our energies. We're going to refresh so that we can go back to learning with intention, with focus, with clarity. And if we do so, I heard this from my rabbi, so this is not just me saying this, then it's not a vacation. It's a service of Hashem. It's just as important, those 3 days of vacation, of taking off time and not teaching, it's just as important as sitting and studying Torah. Why? Because it's the service of you enhancing your teaching, you enhancing your ability to keep on going. That's part of your service of Hashem. So I told my children, before you get out of the car, and before you go run around and enjoy the lazy river and enjoy all of the wonderful things, remember our goal here is to refresh our energy so that we can now continue to serve Hashem. And you know what? We had to daven in our room, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, morning, afternoon, evening. We didn't have a minyan there. Hashem hopefully will forgive us. But there was an intention. We're not just doing it. Just do it, whatever. No, whatever. To become an intentional Jew. Shabbos, do I observe Shabbos? Hopefully, I'm on a journey towards Shabbos. I'm intentional. I'm going to do something. I'm going to take a small step. I'm going to light Shabbos candles. I'll Friday night, I won't use my phone. I won't turn the television on or off. I tell people, I had a guy who came to me in one of my classes. This is more Israeli because for them soccer is like Bible. He says, I cannot miss the soccer game, the Israeli soccer team that he follows. So I said to him, so why don't you preset it? Keep your television on. Don't change the channel. And just leave it. That's it. He says, I can do that? I said, yes, you can do it. Is it the spirit of Shabbos? Not exactly. But it's far better than you turning it on Shabbos. You understand? So if a person is on a journey, we can talk. I've done this with dozens, thank Hashem, dozens and dozens of students who said, it's impossible for me to do this. I said, let's take a step. One small step. And with some, it started, if you know those Shabbos light covers, it started because of one of our students here at the Torch Center who came to me after years and years of learning. She says, okay, I'm ready to go. Tell me what to do. I said, take one light switch for Shabbos that you don't turn on or off. Put the blue tape, the painter's tape, put it on top of the light switch, say, this is my light that doesn't go on or off the entire Shabbos. She said, that's it? I said, that's it. Come to me in 2 months, tell me when it's easy. She came to me 2 months later and she said, everybody knows this is the Shabbos light, it doesn't go on or off, it stays as is. I said, find a second switch and do that now. And slowly but surely, her entire house became completely Shomer Shabbos. She was still driving, by the way. She was still driving to synagogue on Shabbos. But slowly that phased out as well. It's small steps. And a person, you might be thinking now, he's like, it's too much of a bridge to get over. Too much of it's too far beyond my... Don't look far beyond. Look at right now. What can I do? Today's Friday. What can I do this Shabbos to make it one drop better than last Shabbos? That's it. We're about intention. Let's be intentional Jews. That's right. Something really, really small. Something below the radar. Something that's not attackable by the Yetzer Hara. We can all do it, and we can do a great job. And by the way, each one of us in our own area of life. For one, it could be Shabbos. For one, it could be tefillin. For one, it could be kosher. You know what? On Tuesdays, I don't eat Burger King. I don't eat milk and meat together. Just on Tuesdays. But you realize what a transformation that becomes when in 9 months, we come back to Hashem, and we say, Hashem, on Rosh Hashanah, I'm a different person than I was last year. Because now on Wednesdays, I don't eat any more milk and meat. Because now on Shabbos, I only drive to synagogue and I don't pick up my cleaners and I don't go to the movies. And I don't manipulate the television. I have it preset. But you understand that it's taking a step. It's taking a step, and that's what we need to be on a journey. As Jews, we need to be on a journey. We're not, which by the way, is hinted throughout the Torah. The Jewish people are always traveling. They're always going. Do you know how many times they camped in the 40 years? 42 different encampments. They're constantly, the Jews are wandering Jews. We're always moving. We're always going. We're always doing something. In our Judaism, we cannot be complacent. We always have to be moving. We always have to be changing. We always have to be modifying and adjusting. Just like the guy who tinkers with his car and is never happy, and he always wants to make the car a little bit better. We all know that guy Sunday morning is busy with his car. He's always busy, right, spraying and foaming and under the engine, and they're just always dealing with it because he always wants to improve it. We need to always be improving, taking a step. Not let our Judaism be dormant, to not let it be complacent, to not let it be whatever. Make it intentional. My dear friends, have a magnificent Shabbos.
You've been listening to Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe on a podcast produced by Torch, the Torah Outreach Resource Center of Houston. Please help sponsor an episode so we can continue to produce more quality Jewish content for our listeners around the globe. Please visit torchweb.org to donate and partner with us on this incredible endeavor.